Where's your coffee, by the way?
Yeah.
We are live, guys. We're live on Facebook in the group, and everybody, welcome.
Cheers, everybody.
Okay.
We got to the moment, the special moment where we have my dear friend that I have huge admiration. Dr. Mike Appa is with us at Coffee Break with Coachman. This podcast show that we've been producing since 2 years, inviting always brilliant people to share their minds, their insights, their strategies. I wish this interview was a moment where we could only focus on amazing strategies to run our smile makeover office and do the dentistry that we love. But we stay optimistic. Mike is also an optimistic, and we know that somehow we're gonna get through this. And I'm really, really grateful for his time. If this was like 2 months ago, I would say thank you, Mike, for opening time on your ultra busy schedule, among hundreds of patients to be here, but I cannot use that excuse. So now, it's a different moment, but still, it's so special to have you here. And before actually I give the word to you to introduce yourself to the whole DSD community, I just want to say that Brandon is here with us, like always, and like the first interview of the day, Brandon will be moderating, meaning we'll be getting the feedback from you, your questions, your comments, and at any time if he sees a question that is really very interesting or is repeating over and over, he's gonna jump back in, stop us, mention the question, we can comment on it. You can write any question at the Facebook chat, and the questions would be automatically reached by Brandon, and he's gonna curate the questions and share the questions with us. And at the end, we're going to also stop for a few minutes and go over some of the most interesting questions and do a little Q&A at the end as well. Okay, so feel free to write your questions at any moment.
Thanks, guys.
So here we go. Here we go with Mike. Mike, thank you so much, my friend.
Yes.
The whole community has been waiting for this moment where I had the privilege to actually chat with you officially. And be able to allow you to share your thoughts about life and dentistry. I'm a big fan of what you achieved, honestly speaking, and I think, as I always say, probably we will be speaking for the next 1 hour with the biggest representation of success in our profession. And this is saying this with my mouth full because this is really what I believe. Mike Appa has achieved and built a career, a reputation that really helped bring dentistry to a different level in terms of perception of the society. So huge honor, huge pleasure, my friend. Please say hello to the DSD community.
Wow. How do I follow that? Chris, I have known you for, God, that first time that you came to our house in Long Island was 2015. Is that right?
Maybe 14, maybe.
Maybe 14?
Yeah.
Wow. It seems like a lifetime ago. Back then you and I were kind of both embarking on these different yet unique grueling paths. It was really at the start of, I hadn't opened Dubai, I hadn't bought out Larry yet. You were really just on the very beginning of your lecture circuit where you were really starting to travel like crazy. And it is really nice to chat with you and the amazing community that you've built. Because I know how hard you've worked. I see you on those planes and my God.
And vice versa.
And you've had, I call you the Ayrton Senna of dentistry. You are
oh man, that's a compliment, man. Wow.
So passionate and I love your energy, and yeah, I mean, it's really amazing to be here with you. So thank you.
I have to share with the community the story about the first time I heard your name, you know, and that goes back into 2003, 2002, 2004. I was planning to move to US. I wanted to move to US. I wanted to build a new career, and my biggest invitation came from Larry. Larry was the first one who invited me through common friends, and he said, "You need to come to Manhattan. You need to work for me. You know, you're gonna conquer the world. You know, this is all us." And he said, "You know what? There's many reasons why you should come and work for me, but there's another great reason. I just brought in a young guy, your age, exactly your age, super cool guy. This guy, I have a feeling he's gonna be big. I have a feeling he's gonna be big. But you guys will get along. He knows everybody in Manhattan. You guys will have a blast. You need to come and meet Mike Appa. Mike Appa, he just joined me. He's just starting, but he's super cool. You come and you guys are gonna have fun. I think you're gonna get together along very well, and it's gonna be fun." At the end, I ended up not going to New York, not going to work with Larry, but I remember that several years later, you know, when I actually met you was during the time I was working with Team Atlanta. We met for the first time, and Larry said, "So this is Mike Appa that I was talking about. You guys should chat and you know, exchange some ideas." And that's when the thing. But we really got together afterwards when we were talking. This is already 2012. Talking, me, you, and Miguel Stanley actually doing some Skype calls and seeing exactly on the moment. You know, Miguel wanted to do something big. You wanted to do something big. I wanted to do something big, and we were trying to see how we could connect the dots and help each other. So it's a beautiful story that led us, and that's why I always have a lot of pleasure to follow your career, right? And to see the growth and the beauty of everything that you do, the passion. And the same way, how can you go so many times back and forth to Dubai? That's my first question, actually. How can you handle the jet lag? Because Dubai, New York is what, 9 hours?
The time difference is 9 hours. The flight is 12 to 14, depending upon which way you're going. You know, so I've been doing Dubai since 2009. It's a long time. And
how many times a year nowadays, like before the mess?
Yeah. It never bothered me. It's crazy. You know, jet lag has actually, in some respects, helped me in my career, because when first of all, you have to plan those flights properly, but when you know, you can harness jet lag to work for you. I was never a big, like, you know, as I got busier, I didn't go out to dinners. You know, I was in bed early. Like, I was super regimented, like military style. And what jet lag does is it forces you to get up even earlier. So now, instead of getting up at 4:30, I'd get up at 3, wide awake. My workouts in the morning were amazing. I had energy all throughout the day. And then 6, 7 o'clock, I would start to get tired and I would be dead asleep by 9. So it just, in my world, it never affected me, and I was super fortunate. And you know, I also had to adapt so many different things in my life to be able to control it, which is like the veganism, the workouts, all that stuff that you see on my feed now is all to manage being
You're in
able
shape,
to.
man. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
You're in shape.
Yeah. Well, I have to be, you know. The days of you know, if we met in 2003, boy, we would have had a lot. We would have gotten in trouble.
I have a feeling that was better not to get together.
Yeah, for sure.
So guys,
So yeah, it hasn't affected me.
Just quickly, sorry to interrupt. Mike, your Instagram is on mute. I'm getting messages from your community, so you just put that on. All right.
Oh, it's on mute. Let's see. Can you hear it now? There's no sound.
I can maybe go to your Instagram here. I will be able to see.
You have a problem. don't know. I mean, it says
How
it's
can
got
it be
volume.
mute?
No sound.
Yeah, it is mute.
Let me do something. I'll
Yeah,
jump
just
off.
stop and start again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're doing that,
Try again.
we've got guys from all over the world saying hi. So we've got from Turkey, we've got from Brazil, we've obviously got from America. So a global audience at the moment. So
Any sound on this now?
we'll have to see.
Yeah.
If there's no sound, I'll let you know. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway, about what we are living, have you ever could on your wildest dreams think that you would have to live through something like this?
Absolutely not. You know, it's interesting. People pick on me about this all the time. I'm Catholic, and I have like this Catholic guilt that whenever anything is good in my life, I automatically, my mind goes to, well, shit, you got to be prepared, because what if
Too good to be true.
what if I can't practice? What if, you know, as I started leveraging myself in terms of these offices and starting building these teams, you start to, you know, I'm on FaceTime. Huh?
There's here.
All right, I don't know how to fix it. Anyway, I'm just gonna shut it off. Why would there be no voice?
Tell them to
There's
go
something
to
wrong with
Facebook.
my phone. So anyway, it's part of the thing that would always scare me. You know, I never, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good trait to have, but I never was able to fully enjoy the success. And that is why I would always bury my head and just dig deeper and work harder, because I did always have this irky feeling that tomorrow could be over. And the scary part is not, you know, it's not, I've always had in the back of my mind, like, look, I have my own personal skills that I'll be able to do dentistry for the rest of my life, no matter what. But what starts to creep in is, as you start to build these teams, become really close with these people, you're asking a lot from them, right? And you take care of them like family, and you realize that they are dependent on you to stay healthy, to be working, to have patients coming in the door, to make the right decisions, to draw, you know, to really steer the ship. And when you start to have 3 different teams in 3 different cities on different, you know, times, and
not only you anymore, right?
Yeah, it gets scary. So have I ever thought that something like this would happen? No, not like this. But at the same time, it's almost like my fear has been answered.
And so now you release from that burden.
Yeah. Now I can breathe. Like, okay, I knew this was coming. You know, I knew God was not going to let me just be successful and go on.
That is funny, actually, because I always share the similar feeling on be ready, because it's too good to be true. You know, everything just works, and you know, you work hard. I know I'm working hard for this, but be ready, because from nowhere things can change, right? So it's kind of preparing ourselves for moments like this. And also, you're right, you know, you start having teams working for you. It's like family. You know, you have 3 offices. How many people already on the 3 offices?
86.
That's a real company already, right?
Yeah.
And 3 clinics all shut down, right?
Done.
So you're doing the math like all of us in terms of costs per month and revenue down to 0. And did you have meetings with business people financially? How you're creating some plans? You have plan A, B, and C, or?
Here's what I think is that you know, this is such a unique thing that's going on right now, that there is no one that can give you the right answer. or, you know, and that really is part of the fear, is that you just don't know what the future is going to hold. So yes, I have accountants and I have lawyers and bookkeepers that I've been in touch with to try and figure out how to be, and partners, how to be smart about everything. But like I said, it would be like, and you know, I'm going to say this, and I don't think this is the right thing for everyone. You just have to understand, a lot of people are furloughing employees right now in the United States. And what that means is that they, you know, our government passed a huge stimulus. It was like 2.2 trillion. And a lot of that money is trickling down into unemployment. So when you furlough someone in the United States right now, typical unemployment pre COVID-19 was, I think, $550 a week, and now they put an extra $600 on top of that. So, sorry, a month. So that is roughly like a $50,000 salary per year. And, you know, most people in our offices make double that. I mean, the assistants make double that.
Mm-hmm.
So to give someone unemployment at this point, for me, I can't do it. If I had people that were kind of in that range, it's the right option to do.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's just a different business model. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like our salaries are massive, massive, and to cut them out at this point, like they wouldn't be able to pay rent, they wouldn't be able to, you know, feed their families. So.
Mm-hmm.
We've started to come up with creative ways. We also have a government loan that's coming out that's going to take care of some salary. But I mean, what I am hoping and planning to do is take care of people for 2 months and then reevaluate. And I
Yeah.
don't think that you can do anything other than that.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great to hear from you, Mike. You know, very, very nice. You know, the concept. You know, you tell the people that work for you, you know, we're gonna hold together as much as we can, right? And we're gonna
Yeah.
share everything that we can, and I can feel your pain on that, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that actually my Brazilian friends are there with you, because I think
Oh, they're in a much better situation being employed right now.
yes.
I told Muril, I'm like, man, you timed it right, brother.
So how is your Brazilian team doing? For the ones that don't know, you know, one of the reasons why, you know, I admire Mike is because he always valued the relationship with technicians and the Smiles Design team. You know, you guys are the team designing Smiles. The volume is unbelievable, and the quality as well.
Yeah.
You know, and you have some of the best technicians working for you, but 4 of them Brazilians, good friends of mine, and I'm very proud that they are working with you. How they doing?
I mean, it's just it's been a game changer. You know, obviously I had a certain workflow and rhythm with my old kind of life in dentistry using a great outside lab. And when we started in Dubai and had that level of communication with having the lab on site, it just changed everything. And the Brazilians, especially, first of all, their work ethic is incredible. I mean, and their attitude above all is, it just brings a different element to our group, for everyone, not just for the dentists and the ceramists, for the front desk, for the assistants. Like, it is just a pleasure to go to, like, everybody loves everyone in our office. And really, it wasn't always like that. Like, there used to be a different vibe in our office, especially in New York, and it has completely changed. And it's really led by, I think, Murillo just has such a great attitude, and he's a leader, and you know, and everybody else is just so talented, and they want, you know, the harder I work them, the more cases I prep, the more excited they get. Never once.
Yeah.
I mean, people have pulled many all-nighters in that clinic where I go in the next day and it smells like, you know, French fries and body odor.
I know that. Yeah.
but they do it with such a smile on their face, and that is why in times like these that you just, first of all, you have to believe that we're going to do dentistry again. Like it's not ending. The world's not ending. It's just I think the uncertainty right now is what's kind of killing everyone, and I'm just trying to keep everybody floating until we can come back.
Keep the vibe as good as possible. But I understand this, the having an in-house lab with the vibe, with the good vibe, that's the way I worked as a technician, always in-house, and the lab was always the center, the fun where doctors would come for a coffee, where we would tell jokes, where we would listen to music, where the assistants would gather, and it's really a different vibe when the office has a lab like that. And I'm very proud of my Brazilian friends there. It's maybe something cultural, and almost every Brazilian technician that I know that we work together all over the world always had that same style, making work become a hobby and having fun with the doctor, engaging with the patient. So I'm happy to hear that feedback from you, because I remember when you were going through the process of moving into in-house, we were even considering the possibility of doing something together, and you were like, I want to bring, but they have to be really, really good, but then I don't know if I'm going to get along, but I don't know if they're going to learn my workflow, because I have a very specific workflow. And I'm glad you took the challenge.
They dropped, so here's the amazing thing. Everyone, and by the way, the people in Dubai as well have been phenomenal. We have Dong and this guy Pyongyang from Korea, and Nestor, who goes by Magic Powder. He's from the Philippines originally. He's in Dubai, but it's been pretty astonishing to see how guys like Murillo and Joao and Cristiano and Ricardo, who by the way is now on the Dubai team, Ricardo Malizzi, they just drop their way of doing things with zero ego, and they just want to learn, because they see, and you can ask, when you speak to them, they'll tell you, in the beginning they come in and they kind of think like, oh yeah, like I know I've been doing this for a long time, but then they see the actual workflow and process, and then not only do they adapt, but they have really recreated it for me as well, with our addition of all the digital apparatus that we have now, and how we have been able to become faster, more accurate, able to do more. I mean, it is really such we have almost 15 lab people throughout the 3 clinics right now.
I was going to ask that. You have 15 technicians now.
15, yeah. Which is a big undertaking.
Oh my God! I'm not going to even ask the amount of units. It's huge. The production you guys do, it's unbelievable. Really, really amazing. You have lab technicians in LA as well?
Yeah, so Cristiano Soares and his wife are there.
They moved okay.
Yeah. We moved him out there. He's super good and super fast. And, I asked him, I'm like, do you want to stay in New York? Do you want to go in LA? And he was a little hesitant, but he really he's super creative, and he likes kind of being in a quiet environment and just focusing. And so it's been great. Yeah, I mean, just everyone is they're just cranking. The way that we have it in production right now, between each ceramist is booking out 20 units every 3 days when they have the models. So it's a day for models, and then it's 3 days for 20 units, and it's just everyone's cranking.
Do the math, times 15.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Unbelievable. Yeah. It's really something that you created a workflow, and we see, of course, that besides your natural talent for smile design and the things that you can see, and you couldn't do this without the natural gift. You could have the best system, you could have the best technicians, and we know that unfortunately, restoratively, a good restorative dentist needs natural good hands and good eyes. You cannot just skip that part, right?
Right.
But we see that you were able to build a team also with the assistant, because I saw you working several times, you know. So when people ask me, yeah, but is he only good on Instagram or is he really good for real? You know, the people want to know the reality. I say, no, he's really good. He knows what he's doing, and his team. You know, you have a team. It's like Cirque du Soleil. It's very well rehearsed, you know, and that's part of the reason why you can produce volume with quality, because you know, explain a little bit about how you work your, you know, your first, your second appointment, your assistants, and the process of uh, interacting with the patient, designing the smile, saying yes, the
Yeah.
prep, the impressions, the provisionals,
Yeah.
because it's a very unique workflow that you built.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say kind of where we came from and why we've been able, you know, you can't just jump into what I'm going to tell you of how we're doing it now, because it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
It's been 18 years I've been perfecting this. But when I first started with Larry, it was basically one prep from, you know, we would book at 8:30 to 1, then we would have a lunch break, and then one prep or insert from 2 till 6.
Mhm.
And preps would take 4 to 5 hours, depending upon what they were. And we used to do something called tag team dentistry, where I would go in and get them numb. Larry would do some, I would go and do some. And it just, for me, I didn't love it because patients became, they, you know, if you were unhappy with something, you could say like, well, it's because you had the young guy working on me, or, you know, there just wasn't the ability to control the situation as well. You had to have, like, if, you know, for whatever happens, there's just, I like to really have lots of control over everything we're doing, because as the numbers start to go up, what I saw even in our office in the beginning is there did become a time where it was just kind of like chaos. The teams, like, everybody's got to be in such sync.
Yeah.
Front desk is as important as the patient coordinator, is as important as the dental assistant,
Yeah.
is as important as the associate dentist, is as important in the lab. And if everyone is not on the same page and you're doing work at this volume, it just falls apart.
Sure.
So over time, as I started to go to Dubai, I was doing FaceTime consults. I didn't have x-rays and, you know, molds and all that stuff. I learned how to do those intraoral mock-ups from working for the last 6 years from before I started going to Dubai. So I didn't really need wax-ups. I mean, I would get them out of convenience and time, but I would always alter them. So I was able to book a consult over FaceTime, take a retainer, and then go there for a week. And I would do preps for the first 3 days, fly the cases back to the lab. They would make them, travel back out with the cases, and then insert for 3 days. And so we were doing 10-ish cases in a week, start to finish, then in 2010, 2011. So I learned with my assistant, Kathy, who's still with me. She's been with me for 15 years. We learned the system in how to work quickly and accurately.
So you would go fly to Dubai Monday, Tuesday. You would prep the teeth, right? And then
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
And then somebody will fly.
I would take an assistant from that clinic, which was, you know, whomever. She would fly the cases back to New York.
New York.
They would get there Tuesday morning, because you gain the time going back to New York.
Yeah.
And then Jason would make 106. He would close his lab down, and all the technicians in oral design would close the lab down, and they would make 160 units in 3 days. And I'm not talking veneers. People think like, oh, Mike only does veneers. No. These were implant, full mouth restorative, crown bridge, whatever. He would then fly back, because we didn't have a lab in Dubai. He would fly back with a little oven, all the cases, and he would get there Friday morning. So he would have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and he would get there Friday morning, go off the plane straight into the clinic. I would have the first patient numb waiting for him, and I would insert Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
What would you do on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday as they
I
were?
would chill.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But there's one detail, stepping back a little, there's one detail that I think is important for everybody to understand, that when you create such a brand, such a name, you know, it's a little different because people already come to you for that, you know. We talk a lot with patient doctors, you know, that are getting patients on a first appointment for do a single posterior crown or do a hygiene, or and then they have to do a complete diagnostics, and they have to identify the fact that the patient deserves a better smile, and then they have to offer something that the patient didn't think about many times, right? Or the patient is considering. In your case, patients already, I'm guessing here, correct me if I'm wrong, patients are already coming because they know you are a smile designer, and they are coming because they want a new smile. Is that correct?
Partially. So Larry started this process of creating sort of like an aesthetic dental specialty clinic where the people coming to us, but it was a process put in place. We weren't accepting general patients. So if you were coming to our office, you were coming to get your teeth done. And then we were doing general dentistry on patients that we have treated already, and we would maintain them. But here's, I think, the critical part that especially your group needs to hear. And that is, for all the associates that have come on, you know, I have like David Montalvo from Spain. He was a periodontist, then he went to NYU and did the aesthetics program. He's a super talented guy. But teaching him, who had all the talent, how to talk to patients has completely changed his life in terms of being successful at converting patients into doing the dentistry that he now believes that he should be doing. See, before he was a little skeptical. He wanted to do the dentistry, but he was a little skeptical that it works out as well as it does. Okay. And then I think he was a little, you know, I don't mean to be just talking about David. It's for everyone. I went through the same thing. But I think once you have a baseline and a real mastery and control of what you're capable of doing, it comes through and people can hear the difference between you and how you talk about what you can and can't do for them versus a regular dental consultation where they are doing the same thing. They're taking records and they're saying, oh, you know, you have a filling back here, we need to do that. You know, the length of your central is proportionate as the width that it should be, so I want to correct that. It's a totally different conversation, and it's a process from that first phone call, how they're screened coming into our practice, how we accept them into the office. But then I think the real game changer is the confidence in myself and all the people that are working with us in how we actually talk to patients. And now my confidence came from the ability to do that mock-up. That mock-up gave me so much information about the case that I knew that I could A, show them something in the chair, B, I could figure out their occlusion, C, I could figure out the aesthetics. Now, you can use all the digital tools that are available today to have that same confidence, but it's just a matter of, can you really master what you're using, meaning your tools and your toolkit, to have that level of confidence.
I can also imagine the amazing training experience for you as a dentist to design yourself smiles with your own hands, in and out, patient after patient. I think that was probably key for you to communicate with the lab, to change things that you didn't like, to actually practice your artistic skill, you know.
To have an opinion.
Yeah, to have an opinion. To work with one thing that I think it's so important in aesthetic dentistry, that is understanding optical illusion, understanding how to overcome limitations, you know, understanding how to close a gap without looking too big, understanding how to change an emergence profile, you know, how to blend in with lip dynamics. And
so a simple thing like closing a gap without it looking too big, okay? take the same patient that has a big diastema that comes into my clinic versus somebody who doesn't do a lot of this type of dentistry. The conversation from me knowing what my limitations are and what I can actually give back to the patient versus somebody who's not sure, that has to say, let me give it to my lab, let them do something to show us, and then we'll look at it together and we'll do a wax up and give a preview. It's a much different level of confidence that you're instilling to the patient that you're going to really be able to do what it is that you think that they want. And I think that's how I was able to, in Dubai, you know, I was collecting $10,000 retainers and never meeting people over a 15-minute FaceTime consultation, and then going in and doing dentistry on them. And I think that workflow is what really changed the ability to do it at this clip, at this rate.
I think that you, of course, you achieve the level of confidence, and people go and they see the first appointment and they see that you're building the smile, and people, of course, nowadays they follow you and they see what you're able to do. But of course, we have to acknowledge the fact that besides the great dentistry, you built a brand, and
yeah.
One of the first ones that I saw this, you know, international brand as a dentist, you know.
Yeah.
And if you can talk a little bit about, you know, when did you, if you go back to dental school, you know, when did you plan this in advance? Have you had that thing clear in mind? I want to do something different. You know, I want to really be, you know, above the average. Things were just happening, or you were completely driven since dental school, saying, you know, this is more or less what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna work so hard and make this happen.
So, sorry, Mike, before you answer that question,
now
we have a great question. Just waiting there. We have a great question in line with that.
You cannot hear him? He cannot hear him. I can hear him, yeah?
Oh, no, I can't hear him.
Okay. Oh,
but you can hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so I translate to you, Mike.
All right.
So we got a great question, Christian, which is, it's in line with what you were just talking about, the brand. It was by Louis. So I don't know if you guys, if I put on the screen, you can have a discussion.
Yeah.
It is in line with your...
A question in line with that, what I was talking, Mike, about the brand, right? It's actually Luis, my dear friend from São Paulo, Brazil, another great young dentist. How to manage the acceptance with the other dentists in the office if the name... Okay. Actually, this is a very good question. You know, since you build a brand that is your name, at a certain point, I don't know if you felt like resistance from people saying, I'm not going to work for APA, you know, I want to build my own thing. I think you went completely over that, because APA now is a brand that it's even beyond yourself.
Right.
But tell us a little bit about this, because I think it's a great question.
Yeah. So listen, again, this comes from, you know, trial and error, because you have to imagine I came into Larry Rosenthal's practice, and the only reason, you know, he gave me partnership so quickly is because I was one of the first, probably the only, and I hate to say that, I'd let him tell you that, the only guy to start to build a patient base of my own within his practice. And it was very, very difficult. And just switching back really quickly to the question you had asked me before this came in, yes, I was driven from day one. You know, before I went to dental school, my goal was to buy Larry's practice. And then when I got into Larry's practice, it was always to create this brand of dentistry where you could have multiple clinics. And it was laser focused from the beginning. So
the story you told me once about you, even before meeting Larry, you can imagine Larry on, when you were in dental school, that means late 90s, you know. That Larry was, if not the biggest, top 5 name in the aesthetic dentistry in the world for sure. And another doctor, maybe one of the first ones that created a brand above himself towards the final consumer. So he was definitely a pioneer on that kind of strategy. Very, very amazing name in dentistry. But you told me that before meeting him, you already had in mind, one day I'm going to meet this guy and one day I'm going to work with this guy. Is that
and
true?
one day I was going to buy his practice.
Okay. You didn't tell him that at the beginning, right? You skipped.
Yeah. So I love Lewis, by the way, but let me answer this question. It's always challenging when you bring in associates to work with you, and rarely do we ever call people associates because they're not. First of all, they come in as a team member, and I think that's a critical difference in how you even think of them and talk to them, because my whole thing with everyone is, here's what we have to do. Here's who we have in the office. These are the kind of numbers that we need to reach, and this is the level that we're going to get to. And there's a lot of motivation in that. But I think what's happened, and it happened probably over the last 3 or 4 years, is that being in our clinic with the availability of the tools, the in-house lab, the trained staff, the assistants, which we'll get to, the system that's already in place is invaluable. We're giving you every possible edge to be uber successful in cosmetic dentistry if that's what you really want to do. And I tell everyone it's going to take a year or two. Like, don't come in and think that you're just going to be prepping cases, because you're not prepping my cases. And I'm doing, I would say, 80 to 85% of production in all of the clinics. But when you say 80, 85%, like guys like David and Andy and Tarek, right now they are doing more cosmetic dentistry than 95% of cosmetic dentists in the world. And maybe it's a lesser percentage. I mean, you can't compare to what I'm doing, but maybe it's a lesser percentage, but it's a lot. For them to be doing 2 to 3 cases a week.
It's a great place to be. It's a great place to be.
It's a great place to be. So, but when they come in, they have to know that I am not going to give them the patients. The way that they get the patients is by using the brand, let everyone know that they're a part of it. Yeah. And then patients call for them.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that actually what Luis is asked is something that is important for people to understand, because when I'm teaching about a little bit about branding and planning your career on our courses, I usually tell people that a good strategy is to find a brand for your office that goes beyond your name, because it's easier to bring people on board when they are on the business card. They don't have your name above their name. They have a brand that they can feel like they own a piece, or they can maybe one day own a piece. Now, what I see happening with you is that your name already became the brand,
Right.
So people don't get into that ego thing. Oh, it's his office, not mine office. And you're like, this is a brand that it's even helping me, can help you, can help everybody that is here. Is that more or less what is happening?
Exactly. And it when you make it not about Mike Appa, and you make it about the ceramists and the dentists and the process and the offices, all of a sudden you're not coming to see me necessarily, you're coming to our clinic. And that has always been, I told you this a long time ago when I told you about the Giorgio Armani thing, right? My thing was always, if fashion designers who at one point were custom making suits or dresses for women on their bodies and became well known, and then opened a showroom and then opened a store, it happens the same way. Why can't dentistry do the same thing? When you go in to buy an Armani suit, you're not going to see Giorgio Armani. You just know that it's a trusted brand, and that you want to buy one of his suits.
The standard quality.
Right. And it's the same thing.
Yeah. So back to your assistants and the workflow.
Okay.
That's super.
So how does the workflow? So the Dubai trips is what
pushed you to develop something.
Me. Yeah, because that's how life is, right? You don't think, and then you do a little more, and then you say, oh, wow, I can do that. And then you don't think, and you do a little more, and it keeps going. And so you look back, and you're like, holy cow, look how far we've come. So Kathy and I are like a symphony, I would say. There is no wasted space in our movement. Any gesture, nod, eye thing, hand motion, it's just...
How many years with you?
15. She's traveled with me through 3 children. we've gone to, I don't know how many different countries, different palaces. I was talking about the other day, I was like, do you know the amount of people that are wearing teeth from us, from you and me personally? I mean, all these times we used to go to like, a palace in the middle of the night or flying I mean, just crazy stories. But how did it start? It started out of one room. And Kathy is the type of person that she really takes her job. She feels so proud to be with part of what we're doing. And she became a leader to the dental assistants. And she didn't do it by, telling people, do this, do that. People just saw our work ethic. Dentists that came on saw my work ethic. Assistants that came on saw how I treated her and saw her work ethic. Yeah. And they wanted to be a part of it. So they learned and really understood what it was to sit at the chair with me. And now I have 7 assistants in New York, but I have 5 of them are Kathy's. In Dubai, I have 3 of them that are Kathy's. In LA, I have 3 of them that are Kathy's. So I can run, because my time is so limited in each place. I'm in New York for basically 2.5 weeks. I'm in LA for a week, and I'm in Dubai for a week. The what used to be 1 prep in the morning at 9 and 1 insert or prep at 2 is now, a prep at 9 or 2 preps at 9 with an insert at 10. We run 5 to 7 cases a day when I'm in town.
Some are starting, some are finishing.
Some are starting, some are finishing, but we'll usually have 3 main rooms going with preps or inserts at the same time all day long. Yeah.
No other dentist. You have the assistants and you.
And I have dentists that when I'm in town, the role of the dentist is to help get through the day. So whether it's dropping photos, taking pictures, getting patients numb, reminding me of treatment plans, finishing up certain things, whatever it is, like that's their time with me. When I leave, then they do their, all of their work.
Yeah. So I'm learning an important message here. The key here is to find a Kathy.
The key here.
So what are the characteristics of a person like Kathy? If a dentist is listening to us and saying, I want to multiply myself, I want to be stronger, I want to have a team flowing so I can help more people. How do you find a Kathy? How do you train a Kathy? What are the characteristics of a person like Kathy?
So here's what I think is that Kathy was Kathy when she came in. She was Larry's assistant first, and he couldn't stand working with her.
So that's the first trick. You need to get along.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is you have to live, and I think because everything is so transparent, lives are so transparent now, that people see really how you are. And I think what's happened to me over time is I have taken that to a different level of trying to really be a good person and inspire my team, whether it was when I was actually running the team or when I was an employee. The people that I surrounded myself with, my ethics towards life and work, I think that's what made people want to be a part of it and give their best effort. So I think when you start to encourage people that you think are good or can be good, it becomes contagious, and you can get 50 Kathys, maybe not Kathy, but you can get 50, 80% or 85% Kathys, which is like an amazing thing, just by really making them feel like they're doing something special. And I think that has been the underlying principle of everything that I've done in all of these practices.
So we covered 2 important topics of the magic in your office. First was working with top technicians and really creating an environment without ego, of respect and learning from each other, having the communication skills that you have to make them understand your workflow, since every time you have a new person, and I know that very good technicians, they have usually their own way of doing things. So you need to find a very good technician, but that is open with some level of humbleness to say, okay, I want to learn his way of doing, and then take the best out of the two worlds, and really having a fun. And I see you guys have fun, and I love to see the way you guys have fun. That's the way I used to work as a technician with all the dentists that I worked with. A lot of fun. So that's something important that we talked about. An in-house amazing team of technicians that really work overnight when they need, and they save your ass when you need, and you save their asses when they need, and so on. The second one that I saw very clear was your work with your direct assistant, in this case Kathy, and then I saw you working with others, and I could see that you had a system of training them to read your mind, to be always ready, because time is precious, and your patients are tough, and they don't want to waste their time or feel like they're wasting time, and they don't want things to take too long. And it's tough, to design smiles and prep and then bond and do this and do that and surgery and be efficient, keeping the quality. So I think that's the second take-home message. You really need to rehearse. Like I mentioned, Cirque du Soleil, you used a different example of
symphony,
like a symphony, and it's like a ballet. It's really like a ballet, right?
Yeah.
Now I want to ask another very important person in your team. I remember one of the times that I was there with you, you were talking about the treatment coordinator. I don't know if you have the same one still in New York.
Yeah.
She was slightly older, and you told me in between patients having a coffee, you said, you don't understand how amazing this lady is. She can read people. When people walk in, before I meet the patients, she briefs me. She knows everything. She knows a lot about human behavior, and she plays a key role in the office. Is that still the case? Talk a little bit about the role of a treatment coordinator in your clinic.
Yeah. So her name's Jackie. She's still there, and she's still amazing. In fact, she is right now, while we're doing this, arranging FaceTime schedules every day for me while we're not at work. But look, I think that people need to know it's not about finding that one right person. Okay? Here's what I always say, because hiring people, you can drive yourself crazy looking at resumes, getting references, and you never really know, and I think we all know that, you never really know. Like, you have your intuitions and you can have all the data, but until 6 months or a year goes by, you really don't know if that person is what you thought or thought they could be, right? And what I feel is that I hire on instinct. It's usually within the first minute of talking to the person. If I think that they are suited, I'm like doing a master puzzle piece in my mind, like, what office, what is the team like, will they fit in, is it the right energy, so on and so forth. So for the treatment coordinator, we have one in each office. So I have Masa in Dubai, I have Bridget in LA, and I have Jackie in New York, which, interestingly enough, in New York, I'm kind of running like a test right now to see, because it's the most exciting part, I would say, of being, they're not front desk, but being quote unquote front desk, is interacting with those patients, making the sale, feeling good when they come out and say, yes, I booked that patient. It's an exciting position that I want everyone to feel, because I think it keeps people motivated. So I started to train each person in New York to do that.
To do like a rotation.
Yeah, so there's 4 of them now. And so basically, when the new patient consults come in, I just forward them to different people, and I try to split them up. Jackie obviously she's been doing it for 20 plus years, so she's super trained and she really understands. But you always need a fresh perspective on everything that you do. You can't just caught up in doing it one way, because the way that our office was even 5 years ago is completely different than it is now. So it's good to have other people doing it. But the role of that person is basically like bringing the patient into the practice. So how they do that first phone call is critical. The information, I'm just a small detail. We go back and forth 100 times. people want to call and ask for fees. Okay. And once you give a fee, it's like, how much is the Ferrari? Well, hold on a second. Let's first back up and talk about how special it is. Right? So do we give fees? But then if we don't give fees, are they really qualified people? So there's a whole list. There's a process of even how that first phone call works that I'm constantly tweaking. I'm listening to how people make that phone call and saying, instead of saying that, like, turn it around a little bit.
From the clinical room, you're listening to the coordinator.
Oh yeah.
And giving them feedback. Yeah.
Super controlling.
Don't say this, say that.
Yeah, don't say that. But then you also have to balance that out with being constructive and building people up to feel good about doing that phone call. That's 90% of it as well. But the first phone call, they get qualified, right? First, they have to find you. How are you getting to people? That's number one.
Yeah.
Second, why are they picking up the phone and calling your office? That's two. Third, are they pre-qualified? That's three. Then how does that patient coordinator get them to actually make the appointment and come in? That's four. And then if they come into the office, and this is what I say to the team all the time, we should have a 90% closure rate on new patients that actually walk into the office. Because we've already created all this filtering of the mass population that calls to try and get these appointments. If they're walking in the door and that phone call was done well and correctly, there's no reason that we shouldn't close. It's a failure on our part if they walk out and say, oh, I need to speak to my husband, or, oh, I'm not sure, or, oh, I want to think about it. It's a failure. It means we didn't do something well in our process. And then if that keeps happening, what are we doing in the process and how do we make it better? And we're constantly pivoting on that process. So when they come in, Jackie or Masa or Bridget or whoever made the consult is going to take them for a tour, explain and show the lab, explain the process a little bit, show how the office is working, and really get them excited about why they're there. They're not just going to hand them a clipboard and say, fill this out, and then when we're done, I'll sit you in the chair. They're bringing them into a consult room where there's no dental chair, giving them coffee or whatever they want. And again, you know, Murillo and I had this long conversation about the extent to which people, especially at clinics in Brazil that he worked with, went to go and give this like out of the ordinary experience with all these bells and whistles. He said they had like a barista, and they had people making cappuccinos, and there was a spa, and it's not like that in New York. It's not like that in any of my clinics. And that's why I posted something about a restaurant that I used to love that was kind of like no frills. It was good, but it was the environment that you went to that made you want to go back so much.
A blend between taking care, but also going straight to the point.
Yeah, you know, we're not a big, like, we don't have foot massages or, you know, like, we just have quality stuff. Wow. And a good process. So, but the energy is high. Like even though you were saying it, music in the lab, music's everywhere in our office. That vibe is carried throughout the operatories, waiting room, everywhere. So when they come into that consult room, she's trying to figure out key things for me to key in on. Is it aesthetics? Is it function? Is it, you know, what's the timeline like?
She's already talking to the patient before you even meet the patient.
She talks to the patient first, yep. And she takes down notes, why they're there. Like basically chief complaints, you would say in the dental world. But we don't say chief complaint. So she's getting that information. So when she gives it to me, I'm keyed in on what I want to talk about. So I've already geared my conversation towards why they're there. If they're interested in function and I go in talking about, I can make you the most beautiful teeth, I've lost the patient, right? So it's critical to have that information to go in so that you're really prepared on what to speak about. So then when we go in to the consult room, it's more about creating the experience, showing them that they're, you know, giving them all the tools to try and see what, go ahead.
No, you you only treat patients that will do a smile makeover, right?
Not necessarily. It's just, you know, for instance, there's been plenty of people that come in that need 4 teeth, truly need 4 teeth. There's been plenty of people that come in that need ortho and they don't need veneers.
Mhm.
It's not that I won't treat them. It's just that by the time they get to the office, they've already been screened a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they come to the operatory, and since the huge majority needs a new smile, you're gonna perform the direct mock-up. Is that the first thing you do in the chair?
So we have many different things. So the first thing we do in the chair is take photos and x-rays, okay? And we have 4 screens in the operatories, and they're all planned. We have a 42-inch plasma on the right so that the patient can see it. There's the screen in front of the patient for their x-rays. There's a screen behind the patient for notes that the assistant wants to write to me. And then there's obviously the screen on the ceiling, which if they're gonna do treatment, they'll be able to watch television or Apple TV. The screen on the right, we go in and we take photographs and x-rays before I go into the room. That's all laid out on the screens. The x-rays are in front and the photographs are on the right. And when you blow up someone's smile on a 42-inch plasma TV or flat screen TV, they start to see, oh my God, look at these things that are going on in my mouth before I even get in. When I get in, depending upon what the case is, we have different tools. We can use Procreate, where I'll have the photo of the smile on an iPad that connects directly through, that we can draw right on the picture. Or if I think it's someone who really needs to see a mock-up and I have time, I'll do a mock-up, take a photo, and put that on the screen. But either way, there's even, you know, everything is very planned out. Even how you take the photographs is very planned out. Like, you can't overexpose a photograph and make it look like they have beautiful white teeth in a full face photo and put that on a screen. And those are common mistakes that I will say, like, think about the process of what you're doing here. You're trying to show them what I'm talking about, and you're showing them a picture of, like,
it's not expressed in the words.
Right.
So you need to know the story, or you need to imagine the story before you take the pictures, because the picture needs to represent your
what you're
word
talking about. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But that's something that is very, very important. So when you, for any reason, if you don't need to do a direct mock-up because the patient is already sold maybe, or the patient understood by the pictures, then how you gonna send to the lab that there's, because when you do the direct mock-up, it works like a communication tool to the patient, but also as a starting point for the lab to work the design, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do direct mock-ups every time, or sometimes you do the wax up, sometimes you try in the wax up. What are the situations?
So let's just say for the majority of patients are being booked after the consult, meaning we're not prepping them the same day. We do it a lot, prep the same day, and there's a lot of people that fly in from out of town that we have to prep on the spot and we have no records, in which case I will do the mock-up and use that as my stent. Yeah. But if we're doing wax-ups, look, wax-ups are really hard to get right. And it's not the level of the technician, or it's not the level of the program that you're designing on. I changed my mind. I may do a mock-up, and then when I actually start
we have
seeing...
a special guest here. Say hello.
Yeah.
Fala oi. Fala hello. Rony, fala pra mamãe que ela tem que vir aqui te pegar, que eu tô na reunião. Eu tô na reunião, então. And Nicole wants to say hello as well.
So big already. Hi. How are you?
You say, I don't want to go. Tem que ficar quieto, então. Oh. Now the other babies cry. You have dogs, I have babies.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so here, huge majority, you do mock-ups.
Huge majority are making appointments and then we're bringing them back. So in that case, how do you get the information to the ceramist and or the waxer? And what is your level of accuracy that you're going to go 100% based on whatever they do.
Mhm.
The whole point is that a good wax up, if you're not doing a ton of this dentistry, should give you the guide in how you're preparing the teeth, because they go hand in hand. If you don't know where you're going with a case, you can't just start preparing teeth because you're going to prepare them wrong. And a good mock-up or wax-up will also serve as your guide to know that if you've prepared accurately. So it's so critical in what we do for it to be correct. So let's say we are doing a wax-up. What I will do is, we don't have lab scripts anymore. We do everything on Procreate. So we take a photo and I draw on the Procreate with the ceramist there, and I'll write in specific directions on that picture so that they can see. And if I think they need, whatever pictures they need, I'll draw on them. So let's say we'll have a retracted, occluded, a full smile, and maybe a side smile. That will give them enough accurate information to give me something. Now, sometimes it's waxed by hand, and sometimes we're doing digital mock-ups where Alan is doing them on the computer.
Design,
Yeah.
So you're usually doing 3 appointments. First appointment,
consult.
The consult, you call consult. Then the second appointment, the prep, and then the third, insertion.
Second appointment, prep. Third is VPO1. So it's when we bring them back to discuss the provisionals. Okay. They have to sign off and know what they're getting before we give it to the lab, because everything in the lab is based on those provisionals.
Okay, got it.
Fourth appointment is insert. Fifth is adjustment, and then we put them into our hygiene system. But the point of the wax up is it has to be tried in and verified before you start prepping and before you get the patient numb. So if you just take your wax up and lock it in place before anything is done, you can see if the length, the volume, the occlusion, all those things are correct. And then you can also see if you can use that as a guide to do your preparations.
But I want to emphasize the topic you just mentioned, because it's something I've been talking a lot on my lectures, and I don't feel like doctors are taking full advantage of what I call the technical mock-up, and you call the third appointment evaluation and signing of the provisional, right? Is the prototype. Is like an in-depth discussion. It's like you, patient, have the last chance to say yes or no here, because we don't want to mess up the final ceramics. And since you develop the system with digital or with high-end technicians where your provisional can be precisely copied, it gives you the power to have this appointment and have people really sign off on the temp or on this prototype, or as we call this, the technical smile test drive, right?
So it's interesting because 5 to 7 years ago, this had to be layered, and there was very few ceramists that could truly duplicate temporaries. Now with technology, that you can really duplicate a good set of provisionals into milling final restoration. So it's even more critically important because so many more people can follow this protocol.
Because if you cannot follow the prototype, this appointment has very little meaning, right? Because
because then you're just making empty promises.
You're gonna have to do the final try-in and go over the whole process again and start grinding down the final ceramics. As you become more precise, this test drive approval becomes very, very powerful, and I think that dentists should use better all the tools that we have nowadays to really have, because you're investing time, you're investing one new appointment that is a lot of money and time of yours, you're investing a prototype that can be milled, printed, or a provisional, or something that you're manufacturing that is precisely identical to the finals, and you're going through the energy of putting this in the mouth and saying, look at yourself in depth, experience this smile, look at the embrasures, look at the light reflection, look at the emergence profile. Every single detail we can copy and paste into the finals. So please don't come back on the finals and say that you don't like this or you don't like that, right?
Right.
So is it due to the amount of complaints at the final, or people bonding and saying,
So we've always done it this way since day one. And, when we had Jason a long time ago, his mastery was the ability to copy provisionals. So we were pretty accurate even 15 years ago. And it wasn't a protocol that many people could use, because any ceramist that I would go outside of Jason would say to me, like, I've never copied provisionals before. And it's a very hard thing to do when you're layering ceramics.
Very hard.
Right. So now everyone knows how to copy provisionals on our team, and they know that it's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these checkpoints and tools to be able to help them, or we're doing it digitally. But the important thing is
psychologically.
Yeah.
Patient coming back to you with the provisional.
Yeah.
You know, with your experience, because you've been doing this so much, you probably already can identify the crazy patients, the unsatisfied patients, the patients that understand about design, that are very picky, the patients that don't have a clue. You know, what is the process that you go to minimize the risk of the patient complaining about the final ceramics? You know, the questions that you do, the pictures that you take, what is the conversation with the patient about the prototype that you do to really understand if the patient is ready to sign off?
Okay. So this is really interesting, because it's something that
that's where the magic.
Yeah. I'm 42, going to be 43 this year, and it's something that I honestly, within the last year, I've just actually learned. I used to think that there was crazy patients, good patients, like all those topics that you just listed. I used to think people were actually categorized in those categories. Now, obviously, there are patients that we're never going to be able to make happy. It's a very small percentage, but they're there. The majority of patients, now here's where it gets a little tricky, can be lost or recaptured all in how everyone on the team treats those patients. For instance,
I agree.
If they have a good experience in your office, typically they will like the temporaries. If they have a bad experience at any level, a phone call, a problem that they want answered, your time, if they feel that you short them time, your lab, any of those things comes into, your assistant was rude to them or didn't allow them to speak, they can change mid-course and they can turn into a nightmare. And the real trick is having a protocol that you know that you can follow every day the same way with every patient. When you start introducing new things into your protocol, that's when problems happen. So I think that, again, we constantly have to shift and change how we schedule. The total experience is what I'm going to call it of the patient's treatment at our clinic. It's very critically important, and it takes every person on board. It's not just me. And I think when you have that total experience on board, and you can rely on your team to take some of that energy away from you, because you can't foster it all yourself. You can't give 100% of yourself to everyone all the time. You have to be able to lean on people to be able to absorb some of that shock therapy that you're going through, especially when you're working at this clip. So what I have found is that if you try to stay methodical in your process and you don't get emotional or offended or let your ego get in the way, like the other thing I always tell dentists is you're not treating for yourself. And I tell the ceramists, you're not treating for a lecture. You're treating for the patient. You know, you want to put all this translucency and make it look beautiful, and I'm telling you they don't want it. It's garbage. It'll look great for us when we put it on a gigantic screen, but they're not going to accept it. And so all of those things come into play. And, I would say that over 60% of my work is taking off somebody else's work. And the main thing I hear from patients is that he just didn't explain what I was getting, and then I got it and I hated it. And so the whole process has always been to try and
I'm picking on the point because this is the moment of understanding exactly what the patient wants, right? One thing I always say, this example, you put a provisional in the mouth, you ask the patient, do you like your provisionals? And the patient says, yeah, I'm happy. And then I say, but I mean, can I copy paste into the finals? And then the patient is, no, I like them as provisionals, but I believe, but the finals will be much better, right, doctor? that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Workflow means copy paste. It's a prototype. So let's go deeper and understand what is not good. So on this consultation, when they have your provisionals, they use the provisionals for a couple of days. So they really saw themselves with that design, right?
Yeah.
So do you ask specific questions? Do you take pictures? Do you show? Do you make videos? How do you guarantee that the patient is really comfortable? Is just experience and psychology?
No, there is no guarantee. But here's what I'll say that I also hear a lot, and this is something that I think is really valuable that I didn't really understand either. As dentists, there's a fine line between making sure that the patient knows that you're listening to them and being patient and understanding of everything. But most people, and think of it like interior designers, and this is the parallel that I'll always draw. You want to hear them in the consultation, and then you want to suggest to them as a professional. Yep. You don't want to hear them in the consultation and then keep asking them what they want, because then they get crazy. What color do you like? Do you like this color? No. They want you to suggest what you think is best for them. That's why they're coming to you as a professional. So in that provisional stage, I'll never say, do you like this? Do you want me to make it into the permanence? I will say, these are the things that I'm really keying in on details. You see how I rotated this tooth? You see where I built the buccal quarter? And I'll show them why I did what I did with pictures. And then I'll go through color. Again, I'll never show them a shade tab. I hate shade tabs. I think they're the worst thing in dentistry. They're for preps. For me, the only reason you use a shade tab is to show the prep. When you start showing a patient a shade tab, it's just not accurate. Shade is such a complex thing, depending upon which ceramist, which material, how it is in their mouth, how, what it actually looks like live, that I don't like to show them shade tabs. I base it off of the conversation with the provisionals, and I keep it very light. If you say, I'm going to make you an OM3, and they say like, oh, I went to the ceramist and I chose this shade, they will put that into their mouth and say, see, it doesn't match. It's not the same. And of course it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I do it all based on the provisionals saying, this is the color that I like for you. We have the ability to go a little whiter if you want, but I wouldn't go much darker. And that's as general as I keep it. And they'll say, oh yeah, I want to go a little brighter. And then I'll know it's a B1 temporary. I'll make it a 1-on-1 OM3 permanent. And it's as basic as that.
Got it. Yeah. So we kind of covered the basics of running a successful aesthetic dental rehabilitation office. We talked about the relationship with the labs, the ballet with the symphony with the assistants, how to multiply yourself, increase volume with quality. We talked about the treatment coordinator and how, they need to understand people, brief you, prepare you for this initial speech. We talked about the smile test drive, the mock-up, the relationship with the finals, etc. And to cover this overview of the APA Corporation, I want to ask you a final question. Because, yes, the success comes through hard working and really delivering quality. You couldn't survive more than 3 or 5 years doing only good talking and not delivering quality. People are coming back. People are happy. People are talking about you. Word of mouth is still a great way to get patient, right? But of course, you have an amazing strategy to bring people to your office. You were among the first ones to really take advantage of social media, in a way that really built your brand. When was the moment, and what if, and of course it's impossible to talk about all your marketing strategies here in a few seconds, few minutes, but if you could mention the most powerful decision you ever made when it comes to making people know that you're doing a great job, what was that one thing that you did that really took you to a different level in terms of exposure and awareness. You know, from all these
Yeah.
actions that you planned for the last 10 years that I've been following, if you could pick one that you really enjoyed, that you thought, wow, that was a great decision.
Yeah. I'm going to put it into context before I give you the answer. People have always said to me, you're a great marketer. And I always hated that because it sounds like I'm a great car salesman. And the reason I don't, yeah, the reason I don't love that is because, look, at the end of the day, and you know this, if you don't really love what you do, if you don't truly love what you do to its core, first of all, you can't do it at this pace. And second of all, you know that it doesn't really, I mean, the money is nice and it's great, but at the end of the day, and this is kind of going back to COVID-19, you can take away all my shit, you know, all the things that I have in life, except for my family. But if you took, you can't take dentistry away from me, right? And I know that no matter what, even if it's just with Kathy, I can still go back in and do this dentistry, and that's what keeps my mind okay. But that's the level of passion that I have for doing what I do. And that's always been there. There's never been a day in my life since I started doing this where I felt like, oh my God, I have to go to work again today. And that's why I'm able to do it so much.
Let me translate. This is great. Let me see if I got it right. You know, from all the amazing marketing strategies that you did, and you deserve to do it because you really fulfill the dreams of your patients, and you have these patients that are super happy with your work. I love the way you answered, and what I got from your answer is that the best ever marketing strategy is to demonstrate passion for what you do.
Yeah. It builds the teams, it builds the audience, it builds the clinics, it's everything. If you don't love it, people will see through it immediately, and no one will ever buy into what you're doing. You just, and you can't manufacture it. And I think that's why it's so
honest.
Yeah,
it is.
So in terms of marketing, though, I will tell you a couple things, like just basic points. Number one is you got to love it. Number two is I had been doing PR long before social media and had been written up in many magazines that the general public reads at a certain level to people thinking about doing their teeth. So I was long ahead of the game with an actual reputation before social media came about. I already had celebrity patients. I already had international client, all those things that, you know, you need to be able to kind of put meat on the bone, so to speak. When social media came out, and it's not the same anymore because it's a saturated market. I was one of the first to put before and afters up, which I thought was, you know, my hardest. And the reason I knew it was going to be so powerful on social media is because every time they would do an article about you in Vogue or Elle or Harper's or whatever it was, they never showed pictures. So it was just type. You're just talking. And you kind of sounded like everybody else. When you could put your own pictures up and you could control that environment is when I saw a real ability to differentiate yourself. And I still think that's true today. I think that so many people don't understand how important documenting your photography is, understanding photography. All those things are critical because that is your calling card today.
But I don't know if you agree, but one thing that you do, and I know you do, it's lecturing is a consequence, and you do to share and to be with people. But when you do photography, you're thinking about first how this photography can help your case, the quality of the case, and second, how photography can help to create awareness to new patients. It's not to, it's not for a lecture. It's not
for dentists.
Doctor is a patient communication tool that dentists many times they lose that because, as I say, many times in dentistry you see dentists trying to impress more the other dentists than trying to impress their own community. You know.
Right.
So you were always very straightforward. My thing is to create awareness towards the final public. You know, I want people to come to me. I don't make money from lecturing. I make money from patients.
Right, exactly. But then the last thing I did, and this is where I think that it's kind of a saturated market now, and I was able to catch it at a point, and this was 2015, where it was unique, was I took real influencers, which everybody's an influencer now, but back then there was actual influencers,
Yeah.
and did these procedures on them to show to their audience before everybody was doing it. And that 2015 is when I opened Dubai, is when I bought Larry out and recreated New York. And that is really what allowed me to open LA. And I don't know if that time has come and gone or if that's still a possibility, but that was a unique capture in a unique time that I think had really changed things in my life. Yeah, for sure.
But as you said, in terms of marketing, everything changes so fast, and
So fast.
What worked 5 years ago may not work in the same way. So you need to have good eyes to smell the new trend, what is working, what makes sense to the public that will attract the public. And you've been constantly the last, and that comes also from Larry, you know, on his time, his way, you know, he was doing his own stuff as well and ahead of the game in terms of promoting dentistry in a different way. And you guys have been doing that for many, many years, always one step ahead of the curve. Now, to finish, I want to ask you how it is to work with Larry, because he's one of the biggest characters in dentistry in the history of dentistry.
Yeah.
The coolest guy, super nice, but completely crazy.
Yeah, completely crazy.
In a good way.
Yeah. So Larry is, you know, when there's a saying in English that says you broke the mold. They broke the mold when they made you.
Yeah.
They definitely broke the mold when they made Larry.
I agree.
You know, and I don't think many people really know this about him, but he's one of the most caring individuals.
You can.
Yeah. And he really, in all of his craziness, when he feels that he needs to help you through something, he's just like a ray of positive energy at all times. At 7 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, midnight,
easy
doesn't
day.
matter. Yeah, tough day, easy day. He's always super positive. So how is it? You know, we have gone through, I mean, think about our relationship. I came in as a dental student, basically straight from dental school in 2003. We went through a tough patch when I was buying him out. You know, it wasn't easy and it wasn't always friendly and always loving. And then we came through that. You know, there was times where I was sure I was going to leave. And I'm obviously glad I did not.
Nice.
And that was a year of lawyers and negotiating and just awful, terrible times. And then we came through a different phase where I was just starting in 2014-15 to really run the practice. And now it's, you know, it's gone into another level where he just really is supportive of me. I mean, he still sees patients, he still does his thing, but he's really almost like in awe, stepping back, saying like, whatever I can do to support you, it's amazing what you've done. So he's just you know, I said to someone like, the day that he doesn't practice dentistry is going to be a really difficult day in my life. He's just amazing to always have and know that's on your side and keeping you happy. He's just an amazing guy.
We hope he's going to do dentistry forever.
Forever.
The same feeling when I was working with Goldstein in Atlanta, the vibe, the energy, and the special people that they love so much being there and helping, and they love seeing the people underneath getting bigger than themselves. You know, they're very proud of that. That's beautiful from mentors to see that. And very definitely that. My friend, final message to our community.
Yeah.
How do we go through this and we get to the other side of the tunnel as a better person, as a better professional, in a positive way? You know, a final message from one of the biggest names of our profession. please.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that things like this, I mean, I haven't thought about coronavirus in an hour and 29 minutes.
That's true. Actually, we were supposed to talk about coronavirus a little bit more, but I am happy with this, man. I'm so happy. We just talked about smile design. We both
I know.
love.
Been great. Final message is this. Look, you can't predict. No one. This is unprecedented. You're not going to be able to predict when we're going back or what it's going to be like or what the PPE is going to be, which, you know, there's just so many things that we're trying to answer now. And that's the bad news. The good news is everyone in the world is going through this. And I promise you, just like, you know, I don't know if we were talking about this live or talking about this by ourselves earlier, right now, we're just getting used to kind of staying in and not interacting the way that we did. We're not getting on planes. We're not flying around the world. Like, we're getting used to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think in some short period of time, we're going to have to get used to the next phase, but we're all going to get used to it together. And if you start to think all the way down the road, what is it going to be like? If you told me a month ago that I was not going to be working anywhere and that I was going to have to be paying salaries and figuring out strategies, I would have had a nervous breakdown. But because it happens day by day and we kind of evolve into dealing with the situation that's in front of us, it doesn't hurt as bad, or it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. It's just, you get up, you get your head straight, you deal with the day, you go to sleep, and you do it over the next day. And I think that, you know, obviously it's going to go away, right? And we're going to be back to some new normal. How we will be, you can't predict, and you can't waste your time and efforts panicking about it in the future. You just got to deal with each day, do your best, and I promise you, I'll be cutting teeth again. You'll be changing the dental world and all of this technology, and life will go on. You know, and maybe it's not going to be exactly the same, but maybe that's not such a bad thing either.
The great final mention. I love the new normal. The new normal, not being anxious to define what is the new normal, but let the new normal show you how to be the best version of yourself. We will all get through this. That's fantastic, my friend. I could be talking to you here for hours about smile design and patience. And if we get into the lab work and the workflows, we will be here forever and ever and ever. I really hope, you know, that the new normal will allow us to travel. So I can travel to New York again, see all my great friends in New York, see you, visit your office. Last time I was in your office was a blast. Was the only time I sat on a bench and did a wax in 5 years. You know, I actually sat down and did a wax after 5 years. You cannot imagine how special that moment was for me, that we were able to improvise and do a case together there with my Brazilian friends. So I hope I can be back in New York and we can have a chat, have a drink, and have some fun together. And I hope that the new normal will be kind enough to us hard workers and allow us to do what we do the best, design smiles. Thanks so much.
Okay, brother.
See you around, my friend.
Great talking to you. Yeah.